My wife called it her birthday party, but it was really a production with my name missing from the credits. The night ended the second she raised a glass and told everyone who mattered most. And it wasn't me. The backyard looked like a brochure for a life we didn't live. String lights, rented cocktail tables, a little stage set up near the pool. A band working through covers like they were paid by the note. Co-workers everywhere. Phones up. Filming Brianna like she was launching a campaign instead of turning 34. She moved through it all like a politician. Hand on someone's arm, laugh timed for the camera. Chin tilted toward the best light. Every few steps she paused, like she knew exactly where the lens was. Content, she'd called it, like our marriage was a backdrop and not a thing. I stood off to the side, close enough to refill ice and far enough to not ruin the frame. People kept saying things to me, "Great party, man. Your wife's killing it." And I nodded like it was normal to host an event in your own home and feel like hired staff. Then Jason Vaughn walked in. He didn't come through the gate like a guest. He came in like an owner checking his property. Crisp shirt, watch that cost more than my first car. Smile practiced in a mirror. He waved, and heads turned. Even the band seemed to tighten up. Brianna saw him and lit up. Not a polite host smile. Not the one she gave neighbors or my parents. It was a different switch. Eyes brighter, shoulders back, like she'd been waiting to breathe. "Jason," she said, and her voice hit a pitch it hasn't hit for me in years. She crossed the yard fast. He leaned in. Not a hug that said happy birthday. A hug that said you're mine in front of everyone. I felt something in my chest shift. Not pain. Something quieter. Like a bolt sliding into place. The party rolled on. Photos. Boomerangs. Toasts waiting to happen. People orbiting Jason like he had gravity. Brianna stayed near him, laughing too loud at nothing, touching his arm like punctuation. Finally, she climbed onto the little stage. Okay, everyone," she called, and the phones rose again. She took the mic like she'd rehearsed it. "I just want to say thank you for being here. This year has been huge." The band faded down. The yard got quiet in the way crowds do when they're expecting a moment. Brianna lifted her glass and scanned the faces, skipping right over me like I was part of the fence line. "And I especially want to thank Jason Vaughn," she said, turning toward him like he was the reason the lights worked. "The most important person in my life. You believed in me when nobody else did." A few people odd. Someone clapped. Jason smiled like he'd earned it. My name didn't come up. Not once. Not my husband. Not a partner. Not even a polite nod in the direction of the man paying the mortgage under her feet. The applause spread. Cameras caught it. Her coworkers ate it up like a highlight reel. I stared at her, then at him, then at the backyard we'd built together, and something inside me went quiet and final. I'd warned her about that line. She crossed it anyway. And right there, in my own home, while strangers celebrated it, I decided the marriage was over. It didn't start with a kiss. It started with a glow. Brianna's phone would light up on the couch and she'd tilt the screen away without thinking. Not hiding it like a criminal, worse. Like it was normal. Like I wasn't supposed to notice. At first it was work stuff. Late-night messages from her team. Just wrapping a deck. Client fire. The kind of excuses you can't argue with unless you want to sound small. Then I started hearing his name in places it didn't belong. Jason says I'm ready for bigger accounts. Jason told me I have real talent. Jason believes in me. She said it like she was tasting the words. Every time she brought him up, she got lighter. Like his approval was oxygen and everything else was background noise. I watched it happen in weeks, not years. A slow trade where my place in her life got exchanged for a man who wore confidence like a suit. When I tried to talk, she turned it into therapy language. "You don't support my growth. You're intimidated by my ambition. You always make it about you." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I just started paying attention. One afternoon, I told her to meet me for coffee in Uptown. Not a date, a meeting, neutral ground, bright place, public, no performance. She arrived 10 minutes late, sunglasses on, phone already in her hand like it was an extension of her body. She kissed my cheek fast and sat down across from me. "You okay?" she asked, but her eyes were already drifting, scanning the room like the coffee shop might contain someone more important. "I'm fine," I said. "This isn't about feelings. It's about a line." That got her attention. For half a second, I leaned in a little, kept my voice low. "If you invite Jason to your birthday, our marriage is over." She blinked like she didn't understand English. Then she laughed. A sharp little sound. Not amused, dismissive. "Oh my God," she said. "You're being dramatic." "I'm being clear. It's networking," she said, rolling her eyes. "He's my boss. It would be weird if I didn't invite him." "It would be respectful," I said. "To your husband." She set her cup down like she was closing a case. "You're insecure." There it was. The word people use when they want to dodge accountability. I didn't argue. I didn't list receipts. I didn't beg her to see me. I just looked at her, really looked, and saw how comfortable she'd gotten mocking the one person who actually built a life with her. "You think I'm joking," I said. "I think you're trying to control me," she shot back. I nodded once. Slow, like a judge. "Fine," I said. "Then hear me, you do what you want, and I'll do what I have to." She smirked like she'd won. But inside, something clicked into place. The debating part of me shut down. The part that handled consequences woke up. Timelines, accounts, leverage, exit routes. I paid for my coffee. I stood up, put my jacket on. Brianna watched me like I was supposed to apologize. I didn't. I left her sitting there with her phone and her certainty, and I walked out already planning what I'd do when she proved me right. I make a living off patterns. People think law is arguments and speeches. Most of it is quieter than that. Numbers that don't match, timelines that bend, signatures that show up too fast. You learn to stop believing stories and start believing paperwork. That Monday, I was at my desk before sunrise, working through an internal compliance queue, routine reviews, conflict checks, vendors that needed a second look. The kind of work that keeps your license clean and your name off the wrong email chain. Then I saw it. Vaughn Creative Media Group, flagged for review. For a second, I just stared at the screen like it might change if I didn't acknowledge it. My mouth went dry. Not because I was scared, because I understood what it meant. Brianna's world wasn't just a marriage problem anymore. It was a career risk. The flag wasn't a conviction. It wasn't even an accusation. It was worse in a way. The start of scrutiny. The beginning of grown-ups asking questions. I opened the file and started reading the same way I read everything. Slow, clean, with no room for wishful thinking. Payment irregularities. Vendor relationships that looked a little too friendly. Numbers that spiked when they should have smoothed out. And suddenly, all the things Brianna called culture lined up like evidence. The charisma, the fast talk, the "we're family" speeches that make boundaries feel rude. The late-night messages that weren't technically wrong, just constant. The way Jason Vaughn made people feel chosen, special, elevated. That's how you get adults to sign things they don't read. That's how you get smart people to blur lines they used to respect. I sat back and exhaled, slow. The air didn't leave my chest because I was heartbroken. It left because the situation had teeth now. Real ones. That afternoon, Brianna texted me like nothing was happening. "Busy day. Jason loved the draft." I looked at the message and felt something settle. I wasn't just a husband with a bad feeling. I was a lawyer with a file number, and I understood exactly what a paper trail can do, especially when a house is built on blurred lines and pretty words. The week of her birthday, the house stopped being a home and turned into a set. Boxes showed up. Rentals. Decorations. A photo moment wall in the living room like we were hosting an awards show. Brianna moved fast, barking cheerful orders into her phone, smiling while she stressed, because she loved the stress when it made her look important. Downstairs, the band was scheduled for a sound check. Catering texts pinged. Coworkers were already posting "can't wait" stories. Upstairs, I shut my office door and made decisions. No drama, no speeches, just a quiet firewall. I opened a new checking account and a new savings account in my name only. I rerouted my direct deposit with 3 clicks. I set alerts on every shared account. Then I requested a freeze on the joint credit line. Not the dramatic kind that makes a scene, just the kind that stops a card from being a blank check. I pulled up our refinance paperwork and read it like I was reading it for a stranger. Because I remembered how it happened. Brianna had signed without looking. Smiling, half listening, trusting me to handle it because that was the deal. She performed and I handled reality. It wasn't malicious back then. It was convenient. But convenience turns into leverage when the wrong person starts guiding your spouse's choices. I made copies of everything that mattered. Mortgage statements, titles, tax returns. The boring stuff that becomes brutal when a marriage turns into a negotiation. Then I reviewed our shared spending. I didn't hide money. I didn't do anything sneaky. I just separated what was mine from what she could burn for applause. My finger hovered over a setting that would have cut her off completely. I didn't hit it yet. Not because I felt merciful. Because timing matters. Because I wasn't planning a fight. I was planning a clean exit. Downstairs, I could hear her laughing on the phone, pitching the night like it was a product launch. I stared at the door, then at the numbers on my screen. Trust without attention becomes a trap. I tightened every seam I could, signed what needed signing, and when I finally stood up, I felt calm, cold, clear, and ready. The music test started below, bass thumping through the floorboards like a heartbeat I didn't recognize. I opened the office door and went back down wearing the same face I always wore. No one noticed I'd already left. After the toast, the party kept moving like nothing happened. That's the thing about public betrayal, it doesn't stop the music. It just changes what you hear. Brianna stepped down from the stage into a swarm of phones and hugs. Jason Vaughn accepted congratulations like he'd been promoted. Co-workers laughed too loud, drunk on the vibe, on the story they were getting to record. I didn't confront her, not because I was scared, because I wasn't going to feed her show. A confrontation in front of her people would have turned me into the villain in her content. The insecure husband clip. The dramatic moment they could replay with captions and sympathy. I wasn't giving her that. I moved through my own house like a ghost. Past the kitchen where the caterers were plating food I didn't taste. Past the drink station where someone joked about husband duty, and I nodded like I belonged in the joke. Past the living room where the photo wall glowed and strangers posed like they owned the place. No one stopped me. That part hit harder than it should have. I walked out the back, around the side gate, and into the garage. The air was cooler there, darker, and honest. I got in my car and started it without slamming anything. No dramatic exit. No last look. I pulled away while the band played something upbeat and the yard cheered for a woman who just told the world I wasn't her priority. I drove until the neighborhood lights turned into highway glare. I ended up at a late-night diner off I-35, the kind with fluorescent lighting that makes everyone look tired and truthful. Vinyl booths, burnt coffee, a waitress who didn't ask questions. I sat alone and stared at my phone. Brianna didn't text. Not "where are you?" Not "are you okay?" Nothing. I watched her social media story update in real time. Clips of the band, her laughing, Jason front and center like he belonged there. Like I didn't exist. I opened our joint credit card app. The balance was fine. The limit was high. A clean lane for her to drive my future off a cliff if she felt like it. My thumb hovered over the control. Freeze card. One calm tap. The screen confirmed it with a small, polite message. No alarms. No sirens. Just a quiet click that felt louder than the entire party. I set the phone down and took a sip of coffee that tasted like ash. Real life doesn't explode. It disconnects. The hotel room smelled like bleach and stale air conditioning. I didn't pick it for comfort. I picked it because it was clean, anonymous, and close enough to my office that I could move fast if I had to. I sat at the little desk under a lamp that made everything look like a deposition transcript. Laptop open. Phone face down. No TV. No distractions. This wasn't a heartbreak night. This was risk management. I drafted the email the way you draft anything that might be read in a conference room by people who don't care about your feelings. Subject line: conflict disclosure, personal relationship / Vaughn Creative Media Group. No drama. No accusations. No speculation. Just facts. I am married to Brianna Grant. She works for Vaughn Creative Media Group. The company is currently under compliance review. The CEO, Jason Vaughn, has a publicly documented closeness with my spouse that creates an optics issue and potential conflict. I'm disclosing immediately to protect the firm and my license. I will not touch any matter involving the company or its affiliates. Then I attached one photo. It wasn't private. It wasn't hacked. It was already out there, posted, shared, liked. Brianna on the stage, glass raised, smiling at Jason like he was the sun. The kind of image that makes ethics committees sit up straight. I read the email twice, 3 times, stripped any line that sounded emotional, put it back into the language of responsibility. My finger hovered over send. I thought about all the times I'd covered for her without calling it that. All the times I'd swallowed disrespect to keep peace. All the times I'd protected her image while mine absorbed the damage. Then I hit send. The whoosh sound was soft. That's what I remember. How small it sounded for something that big. There was no going back after that. Not to be normal, not to pretend, not to be the man who stands in the corner while his wife names someone else. I closed the laptop and sat there in the quiet, waiting for the first panic call. Because when consequences arrive, the mentor stops feeling romantic and starts feeling dangerous. She didn't call. That was the part that confirmed everything. For 3 days, Brianna posted like I died quietly in a back room. Birthday clips, smiling selfies, comments from coworkers calling her queen. Jason Vaughn appears in frames like a brand placement. No text asking where I was. No, are you safe? No anger even. Just absence. When I stopped being useful to her story, I stopped existing. On the 4th day, I drove home in daylight. No adrenaline. No shaking hands. Just a calm level so it felt unreal. The kind of calm that scares people more than yelling, because it doesn't ask permission. Before I went inside, I walked the perimeter like I was checking a property line. Cameras, doors, windows. Then I let myself in. I didn't trash anything. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. I just made changes. Locks first. Not out of spite, out of control. This was my home too, and I wasn't going to live in the hope that she'd suddenly remember boundaries. The paperwork. I set an envelope on the kitchen island with her name written clean across the front. Inside copies. Amendments. Updated agreements tied to the refinance documents that clarified what was mine, what was shared, and what wasn't available to be reinterpreted during a meltdown. Her signature was there, exactly where it needed to be. That's the thing about signing without reading. It feels like trust until it becomes evidence. Late afternoon, her car pulled into the driveway like nothing had happened. I heard her heels before I saw her. Confident, quick, still in performance mode. She walked in with a playful little babe, like she expected me to be sulking on the couch, waiting for her to bless me with attention. Then she saw the envelope. Her smile flickered. Not gone, just delayed, like her face was buffering. "What is this?" she asked, stepping closer. "Read it," I said. She picked it up carefully like it might bite. I opened it, scanned the first page, then the second. The house shifted. Not loud, just the air changing. Like the temperature dropped a few degrees and her body noticed before her brain did. Her eyes snapped up. "Is this a joke?" "No," I said. "You changed the locks?" Her voice went thin. "Are you serious right now?" "I'm serious," I said, and my tone didn't rise to meet hers. She flipped pages fast, hunting for a loophole, for a line that told her she still had the upper hand. But her own signature kept staring back at her, calm and permanent. This isn't fair," she said, like fairness was something she'd cared about at her party. I looked at her and felt nothing soft. "You signed," I said. "You didn't read. You didn't ask. You just assumed I'd carry it." She opened her mouth, then closed it, because there wasn't an argument that didn't sound like confession. For the first time in a long time, Brianna wasn't performing. She was surviving. And I stood there, steady, watching her finally understand that carelessness has a cost. especially when the other person stops paying it. The fallout didn't come as one explosion. Came as layers. First, HR emails that stopped using emojis. Need to connect. Time sensitive. The kind of language that means someone's already spoken to legal. Then the clients went quiet. Contracts that were basically done suddenly needed revisions. Meetings got moved. Calls got canceled. People who used to laugh at Jason's jokes started remembering they had calendars. By Friday, it hit the internet. Some local marketing blog posted a write-up about Vaughn Creative's culture, with screenshots and dates and a neat little paragraph about Brianna's birthday party. How the CEO was publicly singled out as the most important person in an employee's life. Her toast became a quote people dissected like it was testimony. Brianna spiraled the way performers always spiral when the spotlight stops being flattering. She tried deleting posts, messaging coworkers, asking friends to take things down. She refreshed her phone like she could outrun what was already copied, screenshotted, saved. "You told me it was harmless," I said once. She didn't answer. She just kept tapping like speed could fix it. That night, the doorbell rang hard. 2 sharp presses like whoever it was had no patience left. Jason Vaughn stood on our porch with his collar open and his face raw. He didn't look powerful now. He looked hunted. Brianna stepped forward like she was going to soothe him. "Jason, He cut her off. "Are you out of your mind?" His voice was low, tight. "Do you know what you did?" "I didn't do anything," she said, instantly defensive. "It was my birthday. You made me the headline," he snapped. "You put me on a stage like some—" He stopped himself, jaw flexing. "You needed attention. And now you dragged me into your messy marriage." Brianna blinked. "My messy? You're the one who—" He leaned closer, eyes cold. "This isn't romantic anymore, Bri. This is a liability." There it was. The word that replaced every sweet compliment. She looked at him like she was waiting for the old Jason. The mentor, the believer, the man who saw her. But he was gone. Burned off the moment it cost him something. He turned to leave, then glanced back like he remembered she was still useful for one last thing. "If anyone asks," he said, "you were obsessed. You hear me?" And then he walked down our steps and into the dark like he'd never promised her anything at all. Brianna stood frozen in the doorway, phone slack in her hand, finally watching the truth land. The attention she worshipped wasn't love. It was convenience. And convenience never stays when the bill shows up. The last domino didn't come with yelling. It came in a thick envelope with a windowed front, the kind of mail you can feel before you open. Heavy paper, corporate postage, the weight of someone else's decision stamped into cardboard. Brianna carried it in like it might stain her hands. She'd been pacing the living room for an hour, phone refreshing like a slot machine. Her hair was up in a messy knot. Mascara from last night still ghosted under her eyes. The performance had cracks in it now. No ring light, no filters, just a woman realizing attention doesn't pay debts. I was in the kitchen packing slowly. One suitcase. Not a dramatic purge. Not rage cleaning. Just what mattered. Shirts I actually wear. My laptop, a folder of originals, toiletries. The basics you take when you're done pretending you'll be back. She set the envelope on the counter and stared at it like it might explain itself. "Who's it from?" she asked, but her voice already knew. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She turned it over, saw the letterhead through the window, and swallowed hard. Her fingers worked the seal, nails snagging, paper tearing unevenly. She pulled the pages out and spread them like she was laying out a crime scene. Her eyes moved fast at first, skimming for a sentence that said mistake or disregard. Then her pupils tightened and her mouth opened slightly, like the air in the room got thinner. 130,000, she said. Not a question. A stunned reading of the verdict. She reread it, lips moving silently as she tracked the lines. Demand letter, clawback, bonuses, inflated results, misstatements. The language didn't insult her. It didn't accuse her of being a bad person. It did something worse. It treated her like a line item. Brianna's knees folded and she sat down on the tile without meaning to. like her body quit before her pride could catch it. "I don't have that," she whispered. I don't have that." I kept packing. That's what she noticed next. Not the amount, not the humiliation, but the fact that I wasn't moving toward her. I wasn't crouching down. I wasn't lifting her up. I wasn't fixing it. "Say something," she said, and her voice snapped at the end. "You're just standing there." I slid a folder into the suitcase and zipped the side pocket. "There isn't much to say." She shook her head like she could shake reality loose. "They can't do this. They can't just take it back." "They can," I said. "They wrote it down. That's the part you never respected. If it's written, it's real." She stared at the paper again, like the numbers had betrayed her personally. "This is because of that blog. Because of Jason. Because of choices." I cut in. Calm. Flat. "Stop trying to outsource it." Her eyes lifted to mine, shiny now, not with remorse but with fear. "Please," she said. "We can fix this. We can talk. We can." I closed the suitcase and set it upright by the door. The sound of the zipper finishing was the loudest thing in the house. Her gaze flicked to it, then back to me. Her face tightened like she was trying to force her old power back into place. "You're really leaving," she said, like she couldn't believe I'd do something without her approval. "I'm finishing," I said. "You started this a long time ago." She swallowed. "It was just a toast." "It wasn't toast," I said. "The toast was the proof. The public version of what you'd been doing for months." She looked down, jaw trembling. "I didn't cheat on you." I held her eyes. "You didn't choose me. Not when it mattered. Not in your head. Not in your priorities. You made me an accessory in my own life and called it insecurity when I noticed." Her breath hitched, and for a second she looked like she might apologize. Then her fear shoved it aside. "Help me," she said. "Please. I can't do this alone." I reached into my jacket and placed an envelope on the counter beside the demand letter. Clean, flat, final. Divorce petition. Filed. Served the moment she touched it. Her eyes locked on it like it was a weapon. "You planned this," she whispered. "I prepared," I said. "There's a difference." I didn't raise my voice, didn't insult her, didn't say anything that would turn this into a story she could sell. I opened the door. Outside, Dallas was bright and indifferent. A neighbor's sprinklers clicked on. A car rolled by with bass in the trunk. The world didn't pause for betrayal. I took my key off the ring and set it on the ledge by the frame. A small, simple sound, metal on wood. Then I stepped out. The door didn't slam. Closed the way my patience did, quietly, completely, and for good.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.